Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. I want to welcome everyone to the show and wish everyone a happy holiday season, whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. If it's Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you're celebrating. We at Police Off the Cuff wish you a happy and healthy holiday season. You know, folks, it's this case with Luigi Mangione. It's moving so quickly. It's moving forward so quickly. But do we really know everything about this case? Is everything about this out? Because it's moving so quickly. Just his arrest a few days ago, he's already, of course, back in Manhattan and brought back with such fanfare. I mean, I've seen a lot of perp walks over my time. I have never seen a perp walk with that amount of people involved in it. Just the mayor was there. The police commissioner was there. It was like there was enough NYPD personnel there. It looked like a graduation of an academy class. There were so many people there. And why, you might ask? Why? Why does this particular defendant, alleged assassin of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, why did he rate all of this attention? Why did he rate a plane trip back from Pennsylvania? An NYPD jet flies him back to New York, out to Long Island, where he's picked up by the NYPD aviation unit in a helicopter, flown back to Manhattan to the Wall Street heliport. And from there, he's brought to face charges in federal court in Brooklyn. That's another thing that we need to discuss, and we will discuss today. Why is there a dual prosecution of Luigi Mangione? Why is he getting prosecuted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and also the feds? The federal government is taking a piece out of him. These are some of the questions we hope to answer today, as this is the picture up on the screen of the artist's rendition of him showing up in court with his attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, and her husband to the right, who's also, I guess, is also going to be on this case. He represents P. Diddy. So these are high-profile attorneys. So some of these questions we hope to answer today. But before we do, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your drink. Hold on to your next-door neighbor. Hold on to your wig. Hold on to your toupee, because you're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone. The Police Off the Cuff Zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now, a word from our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BLEAV, BELIEVE, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. You know, folks, it seems that almost every single politician has weighed in on this case. Why is it so political? Now, I'll tell you why. Because first of all, this is a planned assassination of a corporate head, in this case, United Healthcare. a healthcare organization that has been highly criticized for not or for fighting the claims of many people who they insure. And that allows for the public to be quite angry, and not just angry at United Healthcare and angry at these heads of these corporations, in this case, Brian Thompson. But how about our politicians, Congress, Senate, both parties, Republicans, Democrats? They've had years and years and years to fix our healthcare system, and they basically have done nothing. So that is why this has become so political. But having said that, no one has a right to get a firearm and to assassinate someone because of their politics. And in this case, United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. So we recognize that, but yet everyone is trying to get political mileage out of this case. And I find that a little bit disturbing. As I said earlier on, I have never seen a perp walk with the amount of people that I saw in this perp walk. Just absolutely outrageous. I could not believe not just the amount of people, but who the people were. The mayor of New York City was there, and he said he wanted to get a look into the eyes of Luigi Mangione. Really, Eric Adams? You made no arrests when you were a cop. All of a sudden, you want to gaze into his eyes? You know, I shouldn't say no arrest, almost no arrest. He was not an active police officer, all right? But all of a sudden, he wants to gaze into the... And other politicians, the governor weighed in on this, you know? Everyone wants to weigh in on this case. The attention that one alleged murderer is getting is beyond what I've ever seen before. So let's discuss that. Attorney General Merrick Garland said, "Today, the Justice Department has brought federal murder charges against Luigi Mangione. As alleged, Mangione planned his attack for months and stalked his victim for days before murdering him, methodically planning when, where, and how to carry out his crime. I'm grateful to our state and local law enforcement partners for their tireless efforts to locate and apprehend the defendant and to ensure that he answers for his alleged crime." As alleged in the complaint, and this is right from the U.S. Attorney from the Southern District's document, over the course of the last several months, Mangione meticulously planned the execution of Brian Thompson in an effort to initiate a public discussion about the healthcare industry. Mangione targeted the victim, tracked his whereabouts, and traveled from out of state to New York City, where the victim was scheduled to attend the company's investor conference. After arriving in the city on November 24th, 2024, more than 1 week before the murder, Mangione performed reconnaissance in the area around the victim's hotel and the conference venue where the victim was scheduled to speak. Using a false identification, Mangione checked into an Upper West Side hostel. And in the early morning hours of December 4th, 2024, Mangione traveled by bicycle from the Upper West Side to the area around West 54th Street and 6th Avenue. At approximately 6:45 a.m., Mangione strategically placed himself in between two cars on West 54th Street, and as the victim passed by, Mangione walked up behind the victim and fired several gunshots from a 9mm pistol, causing the victim's death. The pistol was equipped with what appeared to be a firearm sound suppressor or silencer. After the murder, Mangione fled on his bicycle northbound through Central Park and ultimately back to the Upper West Side. On December 9th, 2024, Mangione was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania, while he sat in a fast food restaurant after being recognized by one of the restaurant workers. Members of the Altoona Police Department confronted Mangione, who provided them the same false identification that he used when checking into the Upper West Side hostel. Mangione was also found in possession of, among other things, a 9mm pistol and a sound suppressor consistent with the weapon used to kill the victim. So this is from the document from put out by the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District. So what some of the questions that we have, why is he getting prosecuted by both the state and the federal government? Is it unprecedented? No, not unprecedented. Is it necessary? I don't know. I don't know, because obviously the NYPD works for the state. All their cases that they would bring forth when they arrest someone would go to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. So why is the U.S. Attorney getting involved in this? Well, one reason that we may suggest is that Luigi Mangione is eligible for the death penalty, the federal death penalty. New York State does not have a death penalty on the books. So the highest charge he can be charged with in New York State is murder first degree, based on the underlying felony in which he committed this murder, which they were charging him with a terrorist act, the stalking, the tracking. So that would raise the charge from a murder 2 to murder 1. And Alvin Bragg's office is ready to go forth with a murder in the first degree charge, even though there is no death penalty in New York State. So then, is that why the feds are involved? Are the feds going to use the death penalty hanging over his head to get a cooperation, to perhaps get a guilty plea? Is that what they're doing? Potentially, absolutely. There's a possibility of that. This is from the local Eyewitness News. We'll play this little clip here.
6-year-old accused killer isn't being praised in the criminal justice system, both state and federal. If convicted, he could spend at least the rest of his life in prison. Eyewitness News reporter Janice Yu, live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, with the latest on his legal situation today. Janice.
Hi there, Bill. Luigi Mangione, his trial is expected to get underway. His state trial will come first, and then we're told his federal trial will go. And we now know he will be in state court on Monday for his arraignment. Now, his attorney says all of this, the charges, the federal and state case, all of that is highly unusual. She says in her years as an attorney, she's never seen this before. But we had a chance to talk to retired NYPD, former NYPD Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce, and he says both the state and the federal cases have some strong elements. Accused killer Luigi Mangione made his way to Manhattan after allegedly gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson about 2 weeks ago. He landed at the Wall Street heliport to an entourage of law enforcement and city leaders. An arrival of this nature, according to retired NYPD Chief of Detectives Robert Boyce, isn't unheard of.
We've taken people on airplanes and helicopters before. It's not unusual. But it's all about security at this point. You don't want to put them on a road where people are going to be stopping there.
Mangione's case will now play out in federal court for his stalking and murder charges, and state court for first-degree murder as an act of terrorism and second-degree murder. During the 26-year-old's federal court appearance on Thursday, his attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, said they were blindsided by the federal charges and said that her client's situation was very unusual. Boyce says both sets of prosecutors have strong cases thanks to the items found with Mangione, which indicated planning and his intent to, quote, whack the CEO of an insurance company at its investor conference.
He planned it out. He crossed state lines coming into New York from Baltimore, carrying a gun, and stalked him for 10 days. So there lies the terror aspect of it. But you can certainly, what Mr. Bragg said about sow the seed of terror, you can certainly derive that from his writings, from his manifesto and his spiral book writings there. So Mr. Mangione did this to himself by carrying that around, and the weapon.
Well, Mangione remains here behind me at a federal jail. Now, he is eligible for the death penalty because of those federal charges. And as for those state charges, the maximum penalty for his charges of first and second degree murder could be life in prison without the possibility of parole. Live in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, Janice Yu, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
So the big question there still brings me back to, why is he getting charged in both federal and state court? I cannot help but think that it is politics. New York, I have never seen a perp walk with that amount of people. There must have been over 100 NYPD personnel, FBI, politicians. It was just, and the way he was brought here from Pennsylvania, private, the NYPD jet. I didn't even know the NYPD had a jet. They must have obtained it in the years since I've retired. I never knew they had a jet. But this was and is sort of a sensational crime, and not in the way, look, this was, we've stated numerous times on this channel that it's horrific. He shot and killed the father of two, a husband, a son, a brother, and he shot him in the back. Go back through history. Anyone that shoots anyone in the back in American history is considered a villain, an absolute villain. There is no excuse for that. Yet he shot him right in the back. And at first, they believed that he shot him in the chest. And obviously, anyone that knows anything about firearms would realize that they thought that because the bullet exited out his chest. So when they were performing CPR on Brian Thompson, the bullet was bleeding from the chest. It went in the back and exited out the front chest. So anyone that thinks that that's okay, and there's been some people that have indicated that. There's many supporters. In fact, he has over $120,000 collected in his. It's not even a GoFundMe, because I don't think GoFundMe would allow that. But for shooting and killing this man, Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, and you can hate that company, you can hate all healthcare companies, but yet you can't love the guy who executed a CEO because of perceived bad conduct from a corporate level. I always wanted to know, and I thought first from early on in this investigation, I don't care what Luigi Mangione says. I don't think he acted alone. I think he was somehow radicalized. Who helped him, Who helped him escape? Who got him that ghost gun? I doubt he made that himself. Who made it for him, Who supplied the suppressor for that firearm? Who planted the bicycle, the e-bike, in that alley? Or that, maybe we should list it as that pass-through between two buildings. Who put the bike there? Where is the bike now? Did he just drop the bike on the street? Again, you leave a bike unattended in New York City, it'll take about 10 seconds for someone to steal it. But there must be video of someone taking that bike. We haven't found out where that bike is, right? Then he jumps in a taxi and he heads up to 178th Street and Broadway to another Port Authority, not the Port Authority on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue. This is the Port Authority on 178th Street and Broadway. And then he does a fake. He fakes us all out, right? Everyone thinks that he got on a bus because he went in that Port Authority on 178th Street and Broadway and never came out. But what did he do? He took a subway from there down to Penn Station, which is on 34th Street and 7th Avenue, 7th to 8th. And what does he do at Penn Station? He jumps on an Amtrak train. And that's where they continue to track him to Pennsylvania. And then we all know the rest of the story. He's recognized in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and he's apprehended based on a phone tip from a McDonald's employee who received the information from a customer. They call the police and they recognize him. And now we know the rest of the story. They recover the gun. They recover his manifesto. They recover a notebook which shows how he planned this assassination. So we do say, and I'm reminded all the time by our fans and our subscribers and people that watch this channel, quit calling him the shooter. Okay, you're right. He's the alleged shooter, right? And he's the alleged shooter of CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. But he has all the evidence on him. Why? Why would he keep all that evidence? I ask you guys in the chat. Why would he keep all of the evidence? Why? Did he want to get caught? Did he do this accidentally on purpose? These are some of the questions I have. Why? And we remember all these pictures as the NYPD put out all these pictures. The backpack, the bicycle, the pictures with him wearing the mask. And then when he pulled the mask down, this infamous picture that apparently was the picture that got him identified. And yet there are people out there who are his supporters, you know, that are sympathetic to him. That somehow it was okay. Somehow it was okay to murder this man because he's an evil, evil CEO of this evil, evil company, United Healthcare. You know what I say to them? What I say to them is you better get your head put on straight because it's never okay to murder someone in cold blood, no matter what your ideology is. And don't make the equivalency argument that, oh, because they denied claims, they've killed hundreds and thousands of people. Come on. That's one of the stupidest arguments I've ever heard. It's not even in the same level playing field as someone that gets a gun and executes someone. How is that? How do you make an equivalency argument? Adriana from the chat, I have no interest in a man who denied treatment to millions of honest Americans, fathers and husbands, to make $2 million for an already very wealthy company. Adriana, you can hate him, you can hate the healthcare company, but you can't advocate murder to correct the old adage what we learned in kindergarten. Two wrongs don't make a right, you know? And if you think they do, then you don't believe in the letter of the law. You don't believe in law and order, you know? So I don't think, you know, and there's many people that are supporters of Luigi Mangione. There's a whole contingent online. Oh, he's so good looking and all this stuff. Okay. So Mangione faces 4 federal charges, including 2 counts of stalking, murder through the use of a firearm, and using a weapon equipped with a silencer. The charges are important because they raise the possibility of the death penalty if prosecutors choose to seek it. According to the federal criminal complaint, Mangione traveled from Georgia to New York for the purpose of stalking and killing Brian Thompson. The complaint says Mangione used a cell phone and the internet to plan the killing. The federal criminal complaint also details notes Mangione made dating back to August. On August 15th, the FBI says Mangione wrote in a notebook, the details are finally coming together. And I'm glad, in a way, that I've procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about the target is insurance because it checks every box. Another entry describes an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at its investor conference. On October 22nd, the FBI said Mangione made another entry. 1.5 months. This investor conference is a true windfall. And most importantly, the message becomes self-evident. He allegedly wrote, P.S. You can check serial numbers to verify this is all self-funded, my own ATM withdrawals. It's expected the same evidence will also play a role in Mangione's case with the state. The Manhattan DA is expected to arraign him soon on 11 charges. The complaint also says the words deny, delay, and depose were written on the side of some of the shell casings found at the scene of Thompson's killing. These are viewed as a reference to a phrase used by the insurance industry critics, the 3 Ds of insurance. Today, the Justice Department has brought federal murder charges against Luigi Mangione. As alleged, Mangione planned his attack for months and stalked his victim for days before murdering him, methodically planning when, where, and how to carry out the crime. So, a mountain full of evidence against Luigi Mangione. And again, he's the alleged killer. He allegedly pulled the trigger. And we had said early on in this investigation, if they didn't recover the firearm, this case would be very difficult to prosecute. Very difficult. But guess what? They did recover the firearm. They recovered all of that. They recovered all of the evidence, the firearm, his manifesto, his notebook of planning. All of those things were recovered. So a very, very, very strong case against Luigi Mangione. This is from CBS News this morning.
Accused of killing the CEO of one of America's largest health insurers remains in a New York City jail this morning. Luigi Mangione could face the death penalty in the shooting death of Brian Thompson this month. On Thursday, he was brought back to New York from Pennsylvania, where he was captured. The murder is sparking new concerns about violent extremism bubbling up across the country. Allie Bauman has been covering every step of the case, and she is here now with the very latest. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Dana. Luigi Mangione is in the same federal jail in Brooklyn where Sean Diddy Combs and cryptocurrency fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried are being held. Mangione faces arraignment on state terrorism charges Monday. Prosecutors allege the suspect intended to sow terror, and now federal authorities say this killing and the public's reaction to it are emblematic of a broader domestic extremism. Surrounded by law enforcement, Luigi Mangione returned to New York from Pennsylvania this week for the first time since investigators say he assassinated United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan. The 26-year-old suspect faces state charges, including murder as an act of terrorism, and Thursday appeared in federal court on 4 additional charges, which include stalking and murder, and could make him eligible for the death penalty. Anna Kaminsky is director of the Criminal Defense Clinic at New York Law School. What is the likelihood that he could now be facing the death penalty?
The U.S. attorney has to make a decision about whether they want to move forward and ask that this case be a death penalty eligible case. And ultimately, if there's a conviction, then ask a jury to make a determination about whether that sentence should be imposed.
According to a criminal complaint obtained by CBS News, Mangione expressed hostility towards the health insurance industry and wealthy executives in particular in a notebook seized by police. Writing on August 15th, the details are finally coming together. The target is insurance because, quote, it checks every box. The crime has unleashed a wave of anger directed at the health insurance industry.
They don't see the systemic violence, I guess, that these companies put on the people who they insure.
In an interview set to air tomorrow on CBS's Face the Nation, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says he's alarmed by the reaction to Thompson's murder.
We have been concerned about the rhetoric on social media for some time.
And that's against CEOs, that's against the government, that's against leadership.
We've seen narratives of hate. We've seen narratives of anti-government sentiment. We've seen personal grievances and the language of violence accompanying or being a part of those narratives is something that we're very concerned about. That is a heightened threat environment. I still am alarmed, though, by the heroism that is being attributed to an alleged murderer of a father of 2 children on the streets in New York City.
And this week, the Center for Internet Security sent a bulletin to its law enforcement partners warning online support for Mangione could encourage copycat attacks. In a statement, Mangione's attorney called the concurrent federal and state charges unusual and said they're ready to fight the charges in whatever court they're brought. Michelle?
So, very interesting. It's a very interesting case because people are definitely supporting Luigi Mangione. The charges going in either state or federal court simultaneously going forward, highly unusual. I think that is highly unusual. But he has struck a nerve. He has definitely struck a nerve on social media. He has struck a nerve throughout the country because people are frustrated. People that have health care, that file claims and claims are denied. People that are paying way too much money, a huge part of their income to have health care. And I have said on numerous shows prior to today, I believe everyone in this country, every citizen in this country, let me put it that way, should be provided health care. If you don't get it from your job, then it should be provided from the government. I 100% agree that. You know, it really should be a right. And the fact that people are denied health care or their claims are denied is outrageous. And especially, and I don't have the figures here, but United Healthcare makes billions and billions of dollars. And if you want to get mad at CEOs, yes, they are overpaid. The CEO of United Healthcare, his salary, I believe, was $10 million a year. He was apparently worth $50 million. So people do get mad and they do act out in regards to that. But getting a gun and executing him, I could never condone something like that. And I have in law enforcement a great part of my life. And to me, if you lose the rule of law, then you lose your society. You lose a huge part of civilization. And many will argue against that, but that is what I believe. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed, hit that red subscribe button on the screen. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the like button. Share us with your friends and your family. And if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And we appreciate all of our fans, friends that are subscribed to the Police Off the Cuff channel who support this channel. And again, I will reiterate what I said at the opening in this show. I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, whatever you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is. Have a wonderful holiday season with your friends and with your family. You know, folks, as this case moves forward, yes, unbelievably, the politics in this is quite evident. From the chat, contrary Marge, he should roll with the insanity defense. Jury will go with that. You know, contrary Marge, I think Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who is his attorney, she's in this. She's the female to the left in this court rendition, an artist rendition of his court appearance the other day. Here she is in a thumbnail on the screen. She's an excellent attorney, and she even mentioned prior to being assigned this case, prior to being hired by his family, that she might have to go with the insanity defense. But usually the insanity defense, you need to be able to say there is some kind of mental disease or defect. And in his case, He planned. He charted, he reconned, he followed, he stalked, he obtained the necessary items to facilitate this murder. So I find it hard to believe that an insanity defense would fool anyone, or frankly would even be allowed by a judge. This is from WHAS.
Now to the case against Luigi Mangione. The accused CEO killer is facing both federal and state prosecution now. ABC's Andrea Fugii has the latest.
Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, is waking up in a New York City prison. After waiving extradition from Pennsylvania, Mangione was escorted by motorcade to an NYPD plane, which flew him to Long Island, where he boarded a helicopter for Manhattan. The 26-year-old was met by the mayor and police commissioner, then escorted by dozens of FBI agents and NYPD officers.
You see all the security around him? I mean, I don't know if President-elect Trump has that amount of security around him. I'm not being facetious. So he's got to be in a state of shock. And he's meeting all these people now for the first time. There's strangers all around, and he's in a very strange environment.
Once in court, Mangione kept his head down as the federal charges, which could carry the death penalty, were read.
We're going to respectfully decline to make any comment at this time, but Mr. Mangione appreciates everyone's support.
Prosecutors quoted entries in a notebook allegedly recovered from Mangione. One from August reads, "The details are finally coming together. The target is insurance because it checks every box." In October, 1.5 months. This investor conference is a true windfall. The complaint says the notebook describes an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at its investor conference. Prosecutors say hundreds of hours of video suggest the shooter undertook extensive efforts to identify the victim, place the victim under surveillance, and track the victim's whereabouts. Despite the heinous crime alleged, Mangione finding supporters outside court critical of the health insurance industry.
She has a chronic condition that's never going to go away.
And because of how long it took, my back is permanently damaged. I have to get yearly surgeries to burn the nerves in my back.
Universal health care now or free Luigi.
Andrea Fugii, ABC News.
So you could see there are a lot of people out there that are his supporters, that believe that he almost had, well, I'm not saying anyone, people are backing him like what he did was a good thing. I find that, again, disturbing, but D.L. Briggs from the chat. Sometimes people have a few plans to choose from when deciding on which insurance, but cost usually makes the decision for many, unfortunately. Hard Style 818 from the chat. I love the people here supporting corporate greed, literally, and saying no one's supporting corporate greed. No one is. But what we are against is murdering someone because of corporate greed. That's not okay. But we're not supporting corporate greed. Julia Morgan, the guy wasn't stupid, and he's wearing the same clothes, a mask, carrying a ghost gun with a manifesto. Really? What are you implying, Julia? Are you implying that someone planted the evidence on him? That would actually be impossible to do. Almost impossible to do, the evidence planted on him. But if that's what you're implying, you don't have an ally here. Kate from the chat. United Healthcare just said I have different insurance and has reversed all of my claims since February. I am now on payment plans with all of my providers because since they are over 90. You didn't finish your thought. Judy Murray's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there comparisons between him and Kohlberg in terms of being so educated and thinking they will not get caught? Judy Murray's people online have made a comparison. How did someone this smart get caught? How, he planned it so well. He tracked, he stalked. He used an online presence and online searches to find out where he was going, where he would be, and then physically reconned him, physically followed him. So all of those things were in his notebook, his planning notebook, because not only did they recover a manifesto, but they recovered a notebook that he used to plan out. And, one of the things that he also talked about was how he acted alone. I find that difficult to believe, that he had no help. I really do. I find it very difficult to believe. And to him, what does it mean acting alone? That no one physically helped him murder Brian Thompson? Where did he get the gun from? Who supplied the gun to him? In my mind, that's an accomplice. The person who supplied the ghost gun to him. The person who supplied the suppressor. That to me is being not acting alone. John Haggart from the chat, would I, as a juror, consider jury nullification? Look what they have done to President Trump. Look, that's a whole other topic, jury nullification. I'm not going to get deeply into it right now. The Vanks, if it's not Luigi, it will be someone else will do this. Just because the rich and powerful are bullying and tape off. Kami Halani, wrapping presents listening in. Keep in mind, many people support and send fan mail to all types of psychopaths in prison, like that idiot Wade Wilson. Love your channel. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Folks, a lot of what I'm not, Becky Sayone, his salary was $1 million, $9 million in bonuses based on, I'll wait. Okay. You can wait. $9 million in bonuses. Well, yeah, if what you're implying is true, that he received bonuses contingent with him cutting the payouts to people, then I find that deeply distressing, deeply disturbing, if that's true. However, I go back to the premise, doesn't give anyone the right to murder someone in cold blood, all right? And look, our government, our politicians, our elected officials have had years to try to correct this. They've done nothing, They've done nothing. So is this a huge problem? 100% this is a huge problem. Folks, when we talk about this case on this channel, and as we say, when we open up when we open up our channel and we come on the air and we do our opening, this is true crime from a police perspective. This is from our perspective. You don't have to agree with us. That's why this is a great country. You're free to speak your mind. You're free to think as you think. So I want to know, one of the things I want to know also is, how did Luigi Mangione get this way? Did something radicalize him? And what do I mean by that? Well, we all know at this point, if you've been following this case, Luigi Mangione was a child of privilege. What do I mean by that? Well, he went to a private high school. In fact, he was the valedictorian from a private high school. And then he went to the University of Penn. Not Penn State, University of Penn, which is an Ivy League school. He obtained 2 master's degrees from the University of Penn. He's 26 years old. What made him become radicalized? What made him throw away his life to murder CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson? What made him do that? These are some of the questions I have. Why would you throw your life away? Was he was that mad about healthcare? It certainly didn't affect him. When we look into the background of his family, it turns out they own anywhere between 10 and 12 nursing homes, besides 2 country clubs and a radio station. So he was from a wealthy family. So what made him radicalized? I ask you that. I'm asking you that rhetorically. What made him become radicalized? This is from CBS News.
In New York, after waiving extradition, you see that very long walk and change there. His new home is Brooklyn's Federal Metropolitan Detention Center, and his jailhouse neighbor How's this for a headline? Sean Diddy Combs. So after arriving to New York, the 26-year-old murder suspect appeared in federal court where a judge read the federal charges against him. Let's go live to CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano covering this every step of the way. Welcome in on a Friday, my friend. So walk us through what happened in that Manhattan courtroom.
Well, Reed, yesterday, before he even arrived in Manhattan, in that courtroom, in that federal courthouse, Luigi Mangione, as you said, was brought into New York City, not just heavily escorted by several agencies, but led by the NYPD. There was also Mayor Eric Adams who was there. It was a very unique arrival to New York for perhaps law enforcement and the district attorney. It could have been some kind of victory, but you have to keep in mind the way that people are seeing this person online, how they're celebrating perhaps his intention and even his actions in a very disturbing way. And so there is a lot of questions about how people are going to remember that walk. Once he goes into the federal courthouse and he is processed for these federal charges, which were completely unexpected, according to his defense attorney in court yesterday. He changed. He was wearing more of that preppy look that we're used to seeing in his social media presence when he was, a fraternity brother at UPenn, with a button-down shirt, a sweater, khaki pants, very different from the prison jumpsuit, perhaps because he's facing a judge who is reading his rights and is reading his charges. Those charges, especially the one where it's using a firearm for murder, could carry a maximum death penalty sentence. So the situation was extremely serious for him. And his attorney at one point asked for clarity and said, wait a minute, I was told that I was going to be brought here for an arraignment in the state criminal court for those first-degree murder charges, even in furtherance of terrorism that came from the Manhattan district attorney, from Alvin Bragg's office. Instead, the FBI takes him. He's brought into this federal courthouse, and we're learning about these very serious charges where my client is facing the death penalty. The attorney seemed to need a lot more clarity, which the judge allowed, set a date for next month, for January, for his preliminary hearing. And here we are still waiting on when he's going to be arraigned on the state charges.
Is the root of the defense attorney's concerns here a double jeopardy concern? Is that what she's getting at?
Well, that seems to be the case that she is building. I mean, we know that this defense attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who is married to Mark Agnifilo, who, by the way, is P. Diddy's defense attorney, and is also representing Mangione. He was there sitting to his left side while his wife, Karen Agnifilo, was to the right side of Mangione. She, according to legal experts, seems to be building a case around double jeopardy, but she says that the charges are contradicting each other. What I learned from talking to our legal analyst, Ricky Kleeman, yesterday, who's a defense attorney and a former prosecutor, she's saying, look, this is a very rare case. And Mangione's attorney called it extremely unusual or highly unusual case, something she hasn't seen in 30 years. And Ricky agrees. It seems like the federal charges are in some way more resonant with what you would see in a state case, and vice versa. Why it is also innovative, perhaps, is because law enforcement at the federal and state levels are trying to make an example of this person. But at the same time, I asked Ricky, isn't this setting a very, very high bar, given the rarity of both cases, of all of the counts, and of the either first degree in New York and Manhattan, which is very rare, and these charges that don't include terrorism at the federal level, where he could face the death penalty. And she agrees. She says, yes, it seems like it's going to be a very difficult case, especially given the overwhelming support that, I have to repeat, disturbing way, but, understandably, given the way that the health insurance system, people are frustrated, but the fact that this person committed murder, he's being celebrated as some kind of hero, it's quite disturbing. And you have these federal and state charges that are going above and beyond what they're used to prosecuting in a different, unusual way. Are they shooting themselves in the foot? Perhaps.
One thing that is for sure, they are wanting to send a very strong message. Lily Luciano, thank you so much. It's a masterclass in legal wrangling, not only at the state level, but also at the federal level.
So again, questioning what we questioned earlier on is why two bites of the apple here? Is that double jeopardy? Why are they charging him in state court and also in federal court? And let's not forget, the Manhattan DA's office let their intention be known that they intended to charge him with murder in the first degree based on a terrorist act, which would be the underlying felony that would raise a murder to a murder first degree. But New York as a state does not have the death penalty. So he gets tried in New York, whatever happens in New York. He then gets tried a second time by the federal government. And the federal government, as a penalty, has the death penalty. Is that why they're doing this? Or will the death penalty be used as a bargaining chip to potentially get Luigi Mangione to plead guilty? So that's some of the questions we have. That's some of the questions you guys should be asking. Ghost from the chat, Ghost gun with really bad Temu suppressor, set a YouTube firearms channel. John Haggart from the chat, I could not live in a country that justifies murder. Eliza Fernandez, how he knew the exact time Brian was walking to the hotel alone was very easy. Something is not adding up. You know, Eliza, one of the things when he was walking from the Starbucks to 54th Street, which is where the Hilton is, he was on the phone. Did someone call him and tip him off as to what time Brian Thompson was going to be walking out of his room, out of the hotel across the street to go towards the Hilton? These are some of the things we will find out in the ensuing days and weeks when some more of the investigative checks. For example, he had a laptop on the scene. No doubt, him being a computer buff, his laptop must be encrypted. So it'll take the FBI a while to break in or to get into that laptop. The cell phone, burner phone, they could still get into it. So, but all those things, they need search warrants and it takes time. So all of those things are questions we will have answered eventually. Emmy said, St. Anne, as a New York City resident, I appreciate Daniel Penny. However, Penny and Mangione do not need to be compared. These are different situations. 100%. I don't know who was comparing that. Just Ryan, 710. Well, if I was rich and powerful, you can bet your butt that I'd have so much security that you would not get a chance to walk up on me. We asked that too. Sue Olson from the chat, I agree. The healthcare system isn't great. Too many government regulations and people with policies are paying high premiums due to many people who are uninsured and go to the ER. There's many reasons that our healthcare system is unfair. It doesn't work. It's not just a one-stop fits all. Jane C. from the chat, I must say premiums are sky high for insurance. United Healthcare should be ashamed. How do they justify a wage like that? That's a good point. How do they? How do they justify paying their CEO $10 million a year? How do you justify that? And I don't know if it, in fact, is true that based on him denying claims, saving money for the company, that instead of them charging that, they'll give him that in a bonus. I don't know if that is in fact true, but these are some of the questions we ask. These are some of the questions we have in regards to this case. And getting back to the point we raised before, who is Luigi Mangione? How did he get radicalized to this point where he thought it was more important than his life to murder somebody, to murder the head of the CEO of a healthcare, United Healthcare? How did he think it was okay to throw his life away to do that? These are some of the questions I have. And as I said, and you guys could feel what you want to feel, think what you want to think. it always comes back to that question for me. Did he have help? Did he have help in assassinating Brian Thompson? I would like to know that. This is from CNN on the screen. This is the walkout. This is the perp walk from the helicopter. You can see a lot of people on the scene there, heavily armed, NYPD ESU cops, Joint Terrorist Task Force. It seems that he got more attention than heads of state get. Mayor Eric Adams is on the scene. It seems like, a lot of people were getting political mileage out of this. Everyone wanted to put their 2 cents into this. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. As is this perp walk as we watch it. It's sort of, to me, inexplicable. I've never seen a perp walk with that many people from that many different areas, NYPD, Joint Terrorist Task Force, FBI, politicians, it's all for a ride from here to the Brooklyn Federal Court, where he was brought to upon arrival into New York City. Now, all this is going on as we watch this, and we ask, what is next in this case? Who's going to take the first bite of the apple? Apparently, it will be the state government, the Manhattan DA's office, Alvin Bragg's office. The trial will proceed. And then after that, will the feds take the second bite of the apple? And is that double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime? Well, that's for lawyers to argue. That's for lawyers to determine. That's for judges to decide. Will he get tried twice? I mean, it's a little bit hard for us to understand as lay people. Even the point of why is this case getting as much attention and as much resources thrown behind it as other cases, other murders. This is a murder case, right? And you have to assume, from my perspective, that it's the politics of it, right? It's the politics of this murder case. So we will continue to follow this case as it moves along. But it is somewhat of a fascinating case, and it wouldn't get this attention if it wasn't. Slightly Mad Mom from the chat. If his IQ was really high, look up high ability learners gifted. They don't think like us. If he obsessed over the do part, his brain might not have considered the after. Sometimes they just can't. Slightly Mad Mom, great point. Excellent point. Helen, the Scottish Llama. Police off the cuff. U.S. is ranked number 42 in life expectancy, but spends the most on healthcare. Universal healthcare and hybrid single-payer insurance systems have the better outcomes. Helen, I don't doubt you, and I have said numerous times that our healthcare system is broken. It needs to be fixed. And how many times have you heard politicians say that, yet do nothing about it? Do absolutely nothing about the system. So it is a question we all have, and if anything comes out of this that could be positive, it could be that it shines a light on the healthcare system. But murdering someone is not the way to affect change, in my opinion. And anyone that thinks that is not a law and order person and believes in the rule of law. And many have said in regards to this case on this channel, Brian Thompson has killed numerous people through denial of claims. You can think that, you can think whatever you want, but it's not the same as getting a gun and executing a person on the streets of New York City. Folks, I want to thank all you guys, everyone for coming in today, everyone for watching the show, everyone that follows, and everyone that hits that red subscribe button on the scene. Hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, share us with your friends and your family. And I want to wish again everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, and love to you and your families. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.